Good morning, second grade. Today is Friday. Woo! And that's why I'm wearing my Lanier Eagles spirit shirt. I wanted to check in and say hello. And if you hadn't noticed already, Snowball wanted to say hello too. Our friend Audrey had asked about Snowball and wondered what he'd been up to. And so I wanted to make sure that Snowball got a chance to say hello. This morning, Snowball has got to help me make my coffee. And because you know that, Mr. Hay, that I have to have my coffee every single day, so he helped me, but Snowball thinks it's yucky. He doesn't want to have anything to do with it. But I will make sure and include more pictures so you can see what Snowball has been up to as well. So he thought he would join us for our video today. I'm going to send 4 more math problems for you to work on in your spirals, and I also am going to send a video for making paper airplanes. It's a science show video that talks about, it'll show you the instructions on how to make a paper airplane, and then talk about all the things that are needed to make an airplane go. Talk about the force that's needed to get it to lift off the ground, to keep it in the air. So watch that video if you get a chance and try making a paper airplane today. You could even then, as you test out your airplane, measure the distance on how far your airplane will fly. You could put a piece of tape, or if you go in the backyard, you could put a stick down for where you start and then a stick down for where it lands, and you could measure that distance. If you don't have a ruler, you could just measure it with your feet. Count off with your feet as you go and see how far your airplane will travel. And then make some changes to your airplane and see if you can improve it, what you can do to make it fly farther or faster. So that should be a fun Friday activity. I also want you to journal today. Get a chance to write every day if you can, because it's really important to keep working on your writing skills. You can write about the paper airplane, decorate your paper airplane and tell about it. Tell who helped you make it, how long it took you to make it. If you don't want to write about the airplane, you can write about what plans you have for the weekend or what your favorite thing has been this week that you've worked on. So think about what you want to write. Talk to your mom or dad, your brother or sister to kind of get a journal idea and make sure and practice those writing skills. All right. Well, Snowball is going to sit here while we read some more of the Wild Robot Escapes. And yesterday, when we paused, Roz had gotten onto a train. And she was going to be traveling into the city because it was going to be faster to just go through the city rather than trying to go around it. But she got separated from Brightville. So today as we pick up, here was a picture of the train that Roz traveled on. Today, as we continue our story, she is arriving in the city, and the title of this chapter is The March Through the City. The main hall of Center City Station was enormous. Wide columns stretched up to an arched ceiling. A huge electronic screen flickered with train schedules. The whole place was bustling with humans and robots, and everyone seemed to know exactly where they were going. Everyone except Roz. There was our robot, standing still in the station while commuters are people who travel back and forth, they hurried past. She was trying to calculate her next move, and she had to think quickly. You see, a normal robot would never loiter or hang around there for very long. But Roz needed to do something, anything, and when a crew of Rozum robots marched past in single file, she could think of no better plan than to join the end of the line and pretend to be one of them. She followed the crew through a set of doors, and suddenly they were outside. The city was a blur of activity. Automobiles hummed down the street. Robots marched along the sidewalks. Humans talked and laughed and shouted. Buildings towered overhead, and above them, airships buzzed across the sky. Airships. For a moment, Roz was dreaming again about how easily she could get home with an airship, but reality came crashing back when a white triangular ship darted over. It was gone in an instant, disappearing behind the rooftops. But that was all it took for the robot's survival instincts to flare. Were the Ricos searching for Roz, or were they going about some other business? Here was a picture of the city. As she approached, you can see all the tall buildings, the different shapes and sizes. Roz tried to focus on her immediate surroundings. She was still marching behind that crew of robots. With each step, she grew more nervous that they'd notice her tagging along. She wanted to break away, and as they started weaving and shuffling through a crowd of tourists, Roz slowed and stopped, and the robot crew continued on without her. Now Roz was on her own, but she didn't know what to do or where to go. When in doubt, Brightbill had always guided her north, so our robot set off through the city in that direction. While marching northward, Roz passed beautiful boulevards and architecture and gardens and art, and yet she had to ignore it all. She had to act like a normal robot, and a normal robot would never wander the city admiring beautiful things. Whenever Roz looked, she saw normal robots concentrating on their tasks and on nothing else. They ran errands, delivered food, swept sidewalks, cleaned windows, fixed machines, built glorious structures, and did more jobs than you can possibly imagine. Most walked on 2 legs, but some rolled on wheels or slid up and down the sides of buildings on tracks. The city was a glittering, modern metropolis where humans lived in luxury, all thanks to the tireless work of the robots. Roz was marching when the sunlight faded and the city lights brightened. She was marching when the humans went in for the night and the robots continued to work. She was marching when the sun came up and the humans filtered out of their buildings. A new day began in the city, and there was Roz, marching north, blending in, anxiously hoping her son would appear. Chapter 71. The observations. This is a list of all of the observations that Roz has noticed as she's been marching through the city. Sunlight sparkled off the skyline. New buildings were being constructed. Old buildings were being taken down. Cargo ships docked in the harbor. Delivery trucks unloaded crates. Bright signs flickered with advertisements. Robots worked behind the scenes. Children played in the parks. Adults ate and drank at outdoor cafes. The city pulsed with energy, and a wild robot observed it all. So Roz was taking in all of the children and the people out working in all of the buildings going up and coming down. It was a very busy city. Chapter 72, The Police. A pair of police robots stood on the sidewalk while foot traffic glided past them. Their heads swiveled back and forth as they scanned the crowd with their glowing eyes. The police looked menacing, but they sounded friendly. Whenever a human walked by, they'd say, "Have a nice day," in a perky voice. There were a lot of humans walking by, so the police kept repeating their words. "Have a nice day. Have a nice day. Have a nice day." Our robot was not having a nice day. She was alone in the city. She was worried about her son, and she wanted nothing to do with the police. But she couldn't avoid them. If she turned suddenly, she might draw their attention. So she kept her eyes forward and calmly marched along with the other robots on the street. Roz may have looked calm on the outside, but on the inside, her thoughts were scrambled. Were the police dangerous? Did they work with the Ricos? Was she about to be caught? It seemed as if the police were watching Roz. Their eyes lingered on her for a second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, and then they continued scanning the crowd. Our robot felt something like relief when she made it past without incident. She went on her way, just another robot on the street, and those perky voices gradually faded behind her. Have a nice day. Have a nice day. Have a nice day. Chapter 73, The Pigeons. In the very heart of the city was a great swath of greenery, the old park. It had rolling lawns and flower gardens and dense wooded areas. It had lakes and ponds and fountains. It had playgrounds and benches and miles of cobblestone pathways. It also had pigeons, thousands and thousands of pigeons. The city pigeons witnessed things you wouldn't believe. Nothing shocked them. They certainly weren't shocked by robots. So when Roz marched into the middle of the park, the pigeons there weren't troubled in the least. She approached a flock that was about 100 birds strong, all cooing and strutting across the cobblestones as if they owned the place. But as Roz stomped closer and closer, the pigeons scuttled out of the way to let her pass by. However, Roz didn't pass by. She stopped and glanced around, and when she saw that she was alone with the pigeons, she started speaking to them in the language of the animals. "Hello, pigeons. My name is Roz." The pigeons cocked their heads, which meant, "Is this robot actually speaking to us?" "Yes, I am actually speaking to you," continued Roz. "I am searching for my son. He is a goose named Brightbill. Have you seen him?" For the first time in a long time, the pigeons were shocked. Several of them fluttered away from the talking robot, but most were too curious to leave. One pigeon was so curious that she strutted out from the flock and right up to the robot. "Let me get this straight," said the curious pigeon. "Your name's Roz, and you've got a son named Brightbill, who's a goose?" "That is correct." "I can't believe it." The pigeon flapped her wings and turned to the others. "You guys, this is Roz from Graybeak's stories, remember?" The flock began cooing excitedly. "You have heard of Graybeak?" said Roz. "Everyone's heard of Graybeak," said the pigeon. "A while back, she started telling stories about a goose whose mother was some kind of a wild robot. We all thought she was joking, but I guess not." "She was not joking," said Roz. "But I have lost my son, and I do not know how to find him. Perhaps Graybeak could help. Do you know where she is?" Here's the picture of the pigeon that Roz is visiting with, the one that came up and is talking to her right now. "I hate to tell you this, Roz, but Graybeak is dead." The birds all lowered their heads. You know, life ain't easy for us pigeons. We only live a few years out here, if we're lucky. But we were especially sad when we lost Graybeak. She was one of the best. The others cooed in agreement. "I am sorry for your loss," said Roz. "I wish I'd gotten to meet Graybeak. My son was very fond of her." The pigeon gazed up at the robot with a steely look in her eye. "Any friend of Graybeak is a friend of ours. If Brightbill is lost, we're gonna find him." She turned to the others. "You heard me, flock. Hit the skies and tell every pigeon you see to start searching for a goose named Brightbill." At those words, the flock erupted into flight. Only the robot and the curious pigeon remained. "By the way, they call me Strutter," said the pigeon, fluffing out her chest feathers. "It is very nice to meet you, Strutter," said the robot. "Thank you for searching for Brightbill. What can I do to help?" "You can help by staying put. I want you in this park when we return with your son. Don't hide or wander off and make us go searching for you too. Oh, and another thing," Strutter added, "stay away from the park ranger robot. He spends most of his time taking care of the grounds, but he's always on the lookout for troublemakers." The pigeon gave a quick salute to the robot, then she joined the search for Brightbill. All right, friends, we're going to pause there today, and when we return on Monday, because you've got the weekend coming up, I will continue reading, and the next chapter is titled The Sky. So we'll find out if Strutter and his flock of pigeons is going to be able to get to find Brightbill and reunite him with Roz. So I hope everybody has a great weekend, and I will see you on Monday. Bye.